Hmm. Hello, 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 everybody. Thank you for coming in on this wonderful Wednesday night. Hope y'all having a great day. If you don't mind, hit the thumbs up, share, and if you're not subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much, everybody, for your support. And Mr. Lyle, I meant to call you earlier to see if you could come in tonight. I just got him sliding through the door, run through the shower, and run up here right quick. Sorry I didn't get in contact with you before now. But if you can, drop in. If you can't, I totally understand because it's a last-minute thing. I had a cancellation for tonight. Life is getting busy for everybody, and that's at school time. Everybody's getting their kids wound up, school clothes, and registration at school. So everybody's been a little bit busy, and I totally understand. But we got some future shows with some great people coming in, a few guides that from Santee and from some of the local lakes. I'm reaching out to a couple that's across the country, really trying to promote their business and trying to help them. What's up, Mike? What's up, Lance? Super Smurf, Eric Fishing. Let's go back up here. Mr. Lyle was the first one. Creole, Sean T, Fishing with a Squirrel. Who else we got in here? Creole. Lance, Fishing with Big Mike. Hope everybody's doing great. There's Crystal Martin. T-Man, what's up, my friend? I ain't seen you in chat in a while. Good to see you come back in. Guys, I've got some numbers right here. When I was doing some cleaning and redoing, what's up, Rebel Duke? I come across a piece of paper from my very first tournament, the very first YouTube tournament that I put on. It was a gathering of the YouTubers. And I've got a list of where everybody, right before the tournament, I wrote down how many subscribers they had. And then afterwards, how many, it might have been a week or two that I put the second list up of how many subscribers that people actually gained from that tournament. What's up, Richard? Who else we got coming in here? There's Mark from Catfish and Crappy. Mike Irvin. So I'm going to read over a few names and numbers, and it's going to blow your mind as to where they are today. Ryan Swink, LG Bass. I hope I ain't missing nobody. Well, let's start this off by saying God bless you. God bless your families, and God bless America. And we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. And among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But some of the names, Justin Lefford, Team Wampus Cat, he had 26 before the tournament, and after the tournament, he had 164. Richard Warskow, he had 43. He went to 184. Catfish Bill was at 1,119. He went to 1,495. Jim Clark, Catman Clark, Kentucky Catman, I'm sorry. There he is. Thank you, Lyle. Sorry about that.
That's all right, buddy. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm sitting here looking at, I found some numbers from when I done my very first tournament and seeing how many subscribers people gained after that very first YouTube gathering. K&B Anglers had 624, then he went to 759. Jeff Manning was at 264. He went to 1,004. Dieter Melhorn was at 6,536. He went to 9,952 right after the tournament. This is one that's going to blow your mind. Keith Robinson was at 1,632 at that very first tournament. And he's well over 100,000 now. But during that, right after that tournament, he jumped from 1,632 up to 3,477. That's just crazy. PD jumped from 163 up to 533. Justin Fishing Fetish went from 179 to 366. And then just a few more. It was just amazing. Big Nasty Jeff Anderson went from 15 subscribers up to 460. Uh, Pill and Drag went from 759 to 2037. And that's just part of the names that come to the very first tournament. What's up, PB? Mr. Paul Boyd,
You
Justin
know,
Fish, Finish.
one of the one of the things that I'll always remember the most is me trying to get Keith on Catfish Weekly. I visited with him down at the very first or second Catfish conference,
Right.
and he didn't understand that what he had going at the time, and I kind of had a vision of where he was headed
Yep.
because his stuff was good then. It's a
Yep.
whole lot better now.
Yep.
But he didn't want to be in the public eye. He didn't want to be talking live. He liked recording stuff. He loves editing. And I told him, I said, well, just promise me one thing. If you ever decide to do one, that you'll do one with me before you do
Yep.
one with somebody else. And he said, oh, yeah, no problem. And he
Right.
stuck with that. He's an honest guy, upstanding guy. I don't think when Keith started out that he'd ever thought that he would get the position he is now. He's a
No.
huge deal in the fishing industry with his
Right.
hacks and saving people money and all the stuff. And I consider him a dear friend. I mean, he's just a super nice guy. He's extremely knowledgeable what he does. And who do you know that can edit stuff any better than he does? I mean,
Yeah.
I think in them days he had like 600 subscribers, something like. It was a pretty low number, and he said, "Man, they don't nobody want to hear what I got to say." I said, "Keith, you're wrong. They do
Yeah.
want to hear." And like you say, he's way over 100,000 subs now, growing every day. His videos, each one of them gets more than most people that you know that's in the industry, unless they're a big deal. I mean, he
Right.
just does real well, and I'm so proud to know him and see how he growed in these years. But yeah, that's a great thing to keep track of it, where people started at and where they're at now. Keith and Dieter, of course, I knew Dieter back when he was Wiley Catman,
Yeah.
and we was all on the BOC years ago before he was Dieter Mill One Fishing. So he's another one that I've watched grow really big.
And I guess it's been not quite 5 years since I've been back. Well, since I've been into the YouTube world. And basically, it wasn't long after I started back catfishing again that I got onto YouTube and started trophy. Well, excuse me. There you go. You helped me change the wording when I changed and started chasing those big breeders.
Right. Yeah. And that helps if you're trying to get any regulations passed. That's what you want to tell them.
Well, and if we can help each other out to kind of change the word, and even on their videos,
Absolutely.
because a lot of people watch them, and I got to looking back at a lot of my videos. Like some of my better videos, I ain't gonna say the quality was better, but the most viewed videos went back when I was doing a lot of the DIYs.
Yeah. When you're saving people money, you're hitting a home run.
Oh yeah, yeah. And people love DIYs. I mean, they
Yeah,
just
they
love
do.
stuff. And it don't matter if you're cooking or if you're building wood products, people love it.
Yep.
But the reason I kind of wanted to bring you in tonight was that I wanted to kind of get your point of view on how the catfish world has changed since you got into it and started, not just the tournament part of it, but just fishing itself. How do you figure that it has changed?
Well, be careful what you ask me on that subject, but you might hear something that most people don't want to hear. But the
I ain't scared.
biggest, I know, the biggest change that have seen is the amount of information that fishermen starting out can get now because when we started out 8 years ago, everything was pretty hush hush. You'd get somebody that would share something with you, and in just a minute, I'll tell you how that changed. And Paul Ragsdale and I and Chuck Davidson, we always talked about sharing information so people could catch more fish. That was our goal, was to help people catch more fish. And I think that attributed to a lot of the growth for what we had, because we didn't know you were supposed to ask for subscribers for 5 years. We never did. We didn't
Right.
tell people to like and subscribe because we didn't know you were supposed to do that. We didn't.
Right.
We didn't have any idea what we was doing. We started out. We didn't even know if it would work or not, but it did. And if we'd have planned things a little bit better or had some of the knowledge that's available now, we'd have done a lot better probably. But when we got to go into all these big tournaments and stuff, and I'll never forget one time we was going to Memphis, and I was struggling getting bait, couldn't get it, nobody had it, you couldn't buy it, it was just almost non-existent. And I called Chuck. I said, Chuck, are you on bait? He said, I'm on bait. He said, you want me to get you some? I said, yeah. He said, well, I'll freeze it in salt water, and I'll bring you some. And he did. It didn't help me in the tournament. Chuck did pretty good in that tournament, but there was nobody else going to get us any bait. There wasn't none. Everybody was, but he was way down there in Alabama, and he went to the dam down there where he got it, and he brought me 20 or 30 pieces of bait, and it was more than enough for me to pre-fish. But if it wasn't for that, we had a bunch of shad that was a year old. That's what we was going to have to use. And I've caught fish on stuff like that before.
Right.
But when you're in a tournament of that magnitude, you don't want to be using your old shad.
No, you
You
want
just don't.
quality bait.
And things like that have changed. People are more helpful. They'll do things for you now. And when I seen the biggest change in people helping people catch more fish, I will never forget Larry Muse come on our show one time. It's the first show that he'd ever done,
In
and he
fact,
shared.
I don't mean to interrupt you. That show pops up on my YouTube feed ever so often with the Larry Moose standing on, and you got him as the screenshot or a picture of
Yeah,
him up on there. And it does it. What was it? Show 81.
probably. He
That's
come on
what.
there and told us about the dragon weights. He had made those and explained them to us and talked about blowing the balloon up to the size of a golf ball and
Yeah.
doing that. Well, I wasn't quick enough thinking about it, so when we all got together at Owensboro, Kentucky for a tournament, Steve Douglas interviewed him live down there and done it again
Yeah.
after we'd already had him as a guest, and he had a great video out of it.
Yeah.
And why I didn't think of that is beyond me. I guess because Steve does a lot of videos and I do live shows. But
Right.
it was a great deal. Larry shared so much information, and I never will forget. He said, "Now Jeff Dodd, some of the guys going to be mad at me when I tell this."
Yeah.
Well, he never told them either, but he told the world. He told everybody, and that was a big watch show that night. We had a lot of viewers, so. Yeah, that was extremely helpful. And when Doc come to be a part of Catfish Weekly, I told him, I said, my goal is to help people catch more fish.
Yep.
And he was on board with that. And Harold Dodd, my all time favorite guy in the catfish industry, he told me, he said, if you will help people catch more fish, you'll go a lot further than these guys that are just going out there and fishing because they're not telling anybody how they're catching them. They're just catching fish. And
Right.
he said some of them know how to catch fish and some of them are just tripping on fish.
Yeah.
And I believe that to be true yet today.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I agree 100% on that one. And that's something I enjoyed. I still go back and I've been trying to start from show one of Catfish Weekly, and I'm going through and watching them. And guys and gals in here, I recommend you. I know a lot of people don't like going back and watching the old videos, but the very first Catfish Weekly shows, they are so much information that is being released on that show that if you haven't went back and started watching those shows, you're really missing out. Actually, on on a lot of our live shows, some of our first shows. I mean, I loved having Larry on. Yeah, he had to go to his sister's or his brother's house or his
The guy
brother-in-law's
that he
house.
fishes with, yeah, goes to church with him.
Yeah, to get him on to come on because he don't have internet where he's at.
Right.
But there's such a wealth of information in them earlier shows. And I'm not saying that we don't get that wealth of information now, but a lot of information that we're getting now, Lyle, and I know that I'm probably getting ready to step on some toes. And I'm sorry, guys, if you take it wrong because it's not meant that way. But a lot of information now is a repeat information.
A lot of it is, yeah.
And,
Well, it's
you know,
some of these guys cannot come up with an original idea. They'll take what somebody else has done and twist it or change it or pretend they come up with it, but they can't come up with an original idea, and that's wrong. I mean,
right.
it really is.
Right. But I mean, you know, we've all got to learn, and we learn from, you know, I've learned a lot from you and Larry and a lot of other guys and Steve. And, you know, there's so many great people out there. And there's a lot of new people that's coming into the sport that is just new to YouTube. That don't mean they're not new to catfishing. Just
That's
because
correct.
you haven't heard that name, you know, Larry, Mr. Dobbs ain't on YouTube,
No.
but he's got a wealth of information. And
Yep.
so there's so much out there that, you know, it's like the show I had with you and Dieter and David on there. As long as we pass along good conservation habits and we show the public our habits, words don't mean a whole lot to people no more.
That's
They
true.
want to see action. And if they see you throwing back the big fish and keeping the small fish, they're more to emulate what you're doing, not what you're saying. Uh, because there's a lot of BS on on not just catfishing. It's just in this world,
In
period,
general, yeah.
in general. So, you know, we have a lot of kids. I mean, like Flathead Luke, that young man, that North Carolina young man is just amazing. He loves catfishing, and he's not the only one. There's a lot of them out there. Kentucky just sent me a picture of K-Bug holding up a nice a nice blue,
Isn't
big
that
old cat.
something?
Yeah, big old catfish.
There's a little gal that I remember doing an interview with her at Monsters on the Ohio and in a bait shop down there, and she's just a little bit of a thing, and she set up there. That's one of my favorite all time interviews was with K Bug. She'd done a bang up job. She was just cute as a little bug's ear, and she knew answers to questions when you'd ask them. She didn't fiddle fumble around trying to figure it out. She could pop them right out. She knew what she was talking about. And now, when Jim sent me a picture of her the other day, I nearly couldn't believe it. She's a grown up adult young lady, she's a beautiful
Yeah,
little girl, and now she's bow shooting, which is that's a fun thing to do too. But the catfish world's missing out on a great opportunity with that young lady.
yep. Yeah, I got quite a few friends that their children and them also shoot competition, and
Mm-hmm.
it's amazing uh, to watch them guys shoot. I thought I was pretty good till I watched some of these people shoot, but oh man, I can't hit jack compared to these people.
Yeah,
I
it
never had the
is
bows that they got either, so
pretty
you know.
tough, isn't it?
My old bows, you lucky if you got 30% let off. Now they got 70% let off, so you ain't holding all that freaking weight. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, that's is the techniques. Have you seen much in difference in techniques, Lyle, of what people? I mean, a catfish is a catfish.
Rip.
He loves to eat, and you put bait in front of his face. It don't matter if you got a Carolina rig, Kentucky rig, Santee rig. If he wants it, he's going to eat it. Period.
Yep.
But you know,
Jim just sent me a picture of K Bug and what looks to be a flathead.
oh, that is a
So I guess
flathead.
she hadn't completely stopped fishing.
Yeah, she's grown up. I
Oh,
probably
it's
wouldn't
unbelievable.
recognize her if it wasn't him sending me that picture.
Oh, I know. It's just nuts.
There she is.
I just, yeah, that's the one. I
Yeah,
had
there you
pictures
go.
of the last picture I seen was her and going to a dance or something, prom. I don't know what they was going to. I don't keep up with that stuff anymore, but I was in just couldn't believe how she growed up. Well, Listen, here's another one, same way. It's just hard to believe. But you and I've sat here and watched Dieter's son and so many of them.
Yeah,
Uh, you have Wampus Cat's kids out there by you. Now, I don't get to see them like you do, but
yeah,
there's a wealth of quality kids coming into this thing. And what the catfishing industry needs to do right now is embrace these young people because they're the ones that's going to be doing shows and making regulations and fighting for them
yeah.
and all the stuff that a bunch of us are doing now. They're the ones that's going to be doing it at some point. So we need to make sure that they got the tools to work with to make it happen for us.
Yeah, I had Justin Fish's fetish's daughter, and
Oh yeah,
Justin, she's
yeah.
gonna kick me in the tail because right now I'm brain dead and I can't think of her freaking name, and
Gabby.
I'm sorry, Gabby Goose. You know, every time he was gonna come down here, the wife she'd come up here and she'd make her up a little old pocketbook full of all kind of goodies and stuff, and send them to her, leggings and stuff like that. You know, like, you're right. Those kids have learned a lot more than they realize.
Oh, absolutely. And some of that's like Grayson. Grayson can take you out fishing, probably guide you as well as Dieter could.
Probably
You
because
know,
they don't realize it, and but he can because just association alone
absolutely,
teaches you a lot.
absolutely. And I forgot a lot of them because some of them have got other interests now and they're not fishing, but they'll be back. They'll
Right.
come back to us at some point. Just like I didn't know K Bug was doing any fishing, but she still is, and that's good. But like I say, we need to embrace these kids and keep them interested in what we're doing, not necessarily tournament stuff, but just fishing and being people being aware of what they got going on.
Said it's a big old spawned out channel cat. That's a big old freaking
That
channel
is a
cat.
big channel cat, yeah. Well,
No,
Frank, that's okay if they're not into social media. That's okay. That's a plus for me.
yeah, I just me and you talked about it a good bit. Is that yeah, you're right, David. I remember watching Dieter going live a good bit on Lake Wiley. Um, and it was great videos. Even I mean, Dieter's one of them people. He's entertaining whether he's catching fish or not. He just got the gift of gab. He ought to sell
Yeah,
used
yeah,
cars. I
yep.
believe he could sell ice cream to Eskimos. But
He probably could.
yeah, but it has changed a lot. And and I know that when we had David on here the other week, we we discussed a lot of stuff and maybe hurt a few feelings, but in the long run, it all come out to conservation of the fish, to preserving the fish in itself is the way that it really turned the show ended up being. And I think that is so important that yeah, the techniques are getting better, yeah, the graphs are getting better, technology is getting better, but it still comes down to us trying to make people aware that this is not an infinite resource.
No,
And if all the breeders get taken out, eventually a lake will produce only small fish.
that is correct. That is correct. But another thing that people need to be aware of: some areas are never going to produce big fish.
Right,
And some of it's because of genetics, and some of it's because that particular body of water just isn't capable of sustaining big fish. They don't
right,
have the food or whatever it takes for them to be there. What comes to mind is people complain and bitch about the Ohio River every day.
right,
Great fishery. It's never been known as a big fish thing. They have had some big fish caught out of that, but it's
right,
never been known as a big fish fishery.
right,
And they blame it on commercial fishing, and they're hurting it. Believe me, they are. But
right,
that's not the reason. You never heard of 10 or 15 100 pound fish ever coming out of that river.
right.
It's just not a big fish river, and a lot of that, in my mind, is the chemicals that gets dumped into that.
And see, that's what's got me wondering about Wiley. Of course, Wiley really is new to the, excuse my language, trophy catfishery,
Hmm.
because mainly it was first thing it was never stocked with blues and flatheads by the states. It was stocked by fishermen. So it's been about 20, maybe 25 years at most that the first blues was being seen in Wiley. And I'm sure back in the day, I thought I was catching some big channels that might have been small blues, uh, because we didn't know of nothing but channels in those waters, so we didn't really pay that much attention to the difference. But Dieter seems to think that there probably won't be 100-pound fish poured out of Wiley.
I
I
don't
don't
know.
understand that because it's got the DNA. That water was stocked by fishermen from Santee Cooper, from big fish waters. These were big fish put in there. Also from fish from the James River was stocked in that in Wiley. You got the forage, with the white perch in there. There is so much forage, and the shad, and the crappie. There's so much crappie in there. It's unreal. So it's got the food. I just wonder, do you think that lake size has something to do with it?
Oh, I think it does. Another thing that people don't realize is um, the growing time. The growing period in, say, just for an example, the lakes in Alabama, Wheeler and Gunnersville and all them, they have an extremely long growth rate period of time throughout the year compared to Lake Ozark and Truman here in Missouri. We have a
Right,
lot colder weather. We have a lot more of it
right,
than they do, and the growth period in our lake is a lot lower. Do we get 90-pound fish? Absolutely. There've been several of them caught out of the lakes, but it's once every 2 or 3 years, or once a year, something like that. It's not several in one year because they're not growing that fast. Some of
right,
that has to do with genetics. There's plenty of bait in these rivers or lakes that we have, but
right.
the growth period is just not there to sustain it. Will they ever get some 100-pound fish? Maybe so. But to do that, they're going to have to crack down on the people that's taking too many fish. They have regulations in place, but when they go in front of the judge, and if they ever do give them a ticket, which is rare because they don't want to give them a ticket for that, but if they ever do, the judge will give them a little. Don't do that now. Instead of sticking them for $10,000 or $15,000, that'll stop that crap. Take their boat, their motor, all their stuff, and say, okay, you can never catfish again. That'll stop that crap from happening, but they won't do that. They just give them a $25 fine and court cost and send them home. Never going to stop them guys from doing that. And
Well,
and it's as hard as it is, because I used to do it myself. Trot liners are the worst. They just take everything that they catch, and they don't. There's only one guy I know of that's such a trot line that ever throws them back. Any of them.
well, yeah, and I'm gonna say something. Lyle, it's just like, and I'm probably gonna piss some people off, but I doubt it on here because most of them I think are conservative. But that idiot we got up there in the White House, the only way that things get changed is if the people themselves make that change. So if you in the waters with those big commercial fishermen, I'd burn their freaking phones up. Every time I seen something coming in wrong, I'd burn their phones up. When you start getting on their freaking nerves and driving them nuts, you're gonna get something done. They're
That's
gonna
right.
do it just to shut you up.
But as much as I dislike that man, he's not the only one. You need to start
No,
from there and go down right through your local people in your state and county, federal.
all the
If
way
they're
to the
not
school
getting this
board.
stuff done, they got to go.
Yeah, all the way to the school board.
That's especially the school board.
Yeah, make your voices heard, people. That is the way that things are going to change. I sat and watched, and I don't mean to get political, and I'll shut up after this one. I sat and watched where they was talking about China is getting ready to overtake America. Well, guess what? We, the people, can
Are
stop that.
allowing it. We're allowing
We
it.
can stop it. All we got
Yep.
to do is stop buying China.
That's it. Leave it set
Stop
on them
buying China.
shelves for a while, and you leave something set on a shelf for a while and quit buying it because it's made in China. Then people got to eat it, and
Just
that
like
ain't going.
gasoline.
That's
Take
right.
one day in America, one day. That's all it would take. Everybody in America not buy gas for one day. They'll be begging us to go buy gas.
The problem is you can't get organized enough for people to stick with it.
People are selfish.
They don't want to miss a day's work. I wouldn't want to either. But
Look at here,
yeah, there you go.
Miss Gabby.
Gabby Goose.
There you go.
But yeah, that's a lot of it.
Yeah.
That's how America was founded. They got tired of paying too much tax. Well, if they knew the amount of tax the American people right now was tolerating, they would probably roll over and crap in their caskets.
I said and watched the video the other day, and I'll get off of this because David said, "Preach it, James, preach it." Is that if you really look? Yeah, you're right. I sat and watched this guy break down the numbers. They getting about 70% of your money, guys and gals.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting triple and quadruple taxed, all the crap. But anyway, back to fishing. Make your voice be heard, just like the pay lakes and stuff like that. I've always been one of these people. I always believe if I lived in a neighborhood and the guy next door was beating the crap out of him and his wife, and I sat back and I don't say nothing, I'm just as guilty as he is.
That's true.
I'm just as guilty as he is. What's up, Mark? We've had so many great people. Let me give a few shout outs. There's Freddie, there's Art, there's Brian B's in the house, Sean T, David Martin, Mike Sampson, Creole, Twisted Fishing. He said, "Yeah, BS." I hollered BS, and he come in. Damn River Boys, Terry Lane, Northeast Missouri Angler. Is he out there near you?
He is. He's in the northern part of the state. He actually lives up pretty close to James Dockery.
Oh, I hear you. There's Gerald
Fishes Mark
Smith,
Twain Lake and the Mississippi River.
Kentucky Catman, Gerald Smith. He's out here with us. Great fisherman. He got a nice pontoon. And I think I seen Maurice come in here a little while ago. P&B Catfishing. I think I've finally caught back up. I seen some names dropped in here earlier and we was talking. So
there's Mark with Till Death Do Us Part.
Okay. Yep. I missed that one.
Yeah. Dennis says he's about 4 hours from me.
Okay. So, I mean, I know that YouTube has applied some more pressure that probably would have never been put on the lakes. But at the same time, I also got to be realistic that a lot of these people was already catfishing.
Yeah.
And most of them was just doing it for, food or just to go out and sit on the bank with their buddies and have a beer and sat out there and catfish and didn't care if you caught nothing or not. It didn't really matter. You just enjoying the camaraderie. YouTube has helped. I think I'm like you. I think it has helped in a way of bringing along CPR. I think it has come a long ways of making people more aware of pay lakes. So, I mean, I think it's been good to that. Now, the downside, I think, we probably have. What's up, Muskrat? I think we probably, Paul Frick, I think we have probably informed some turds in the fishing industry.
Absolutely.
What's up, Abbott? But that comes along. That's just the nature of the beast. I mean,
it is. You're
no
going to get that with anything.
If they didn't learn it on YouTube, they're going to learn it from somewhere. If it ain't nothing but time on the water.
I'd like to interrupt you for 1 second.
Do what you got to do.
Avid has a niece that is not doing very well. If we keep that family in your thoughts and prayers, everybody, because she's been a big part of his life, her whole life, and I know for a fact that they're fighting with it, and we want to keep them in your thoughts and prayers. And a really good friend of mine, Vicky Mathena, passed away this morning. Her and Jason, I've known them for a lot of years, and they call her the Queen of the Mississippi.
Yep.
She was in her late 70s, a bumping machine that she was. If there ever was a person that could bump fish with anybody, it was Vicky Mathena. And That family really needs your thoughts and prayers right now too. They're going to be struggling with that for a while because the catfishing world is going to miss her more than people realize.
Yeah.
Just while I happen to see Abbott in there, it brought both those things to my attention. Didn't want to interrupt you, but I
Oh, you're fine.
wanted to get that
Thank you
out.
for sharing that. It's yeah, it's they actually sent me friend requests probably 2 years ago through Facebook, the Mathenas, and you know, I always thought about trying to see if I could get them on the show, but hadn't seen them on one of your shows, so I didn't know if they would actually do one. You know, some people will, some people won't,
I'm
but I
sure
hadn't thought
Jason
about
would,
it.
but Vicky's health's been bad for some time, and
Right.
when nobody really talked about it because we just knew she was going to pull out of it, but it eventually cancer just eventually got her.
Mhm. Well, I'm sorry
Crying
to hear
shame.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah. And you know, there's a lot of us getting older. I mean, we all getting older. I mean, and
not me.
uh, my mind says I'm not, but my body's telling another freaking story.
Well, mine too, buddy.
I've been busting my tail the past couple of days and come sliding sideways in here. And I'd rather been sliding sideways up in the cotton picking bed myself, but hey, the show must go on.
That's right.
Uh, so, I mean, do you see what do you foretake the future is as far as catfishing? Do you see that the waters might start getting better because we are bringing more awareness, or do you think that we're not really making a dent in anything?
I think that it's going to continually get better. I do think that we're making a difference in regulations. Um, Some of them, the people, and I'm just going to throw this out there. Kentucky is not going to do anything for a long time. They've been ridiculed, cussed at, made fun of, laughed at. There are people that make the regulations have been construed as thieves and crooks and stuff. I'm not saying they're not, but I'm telling you, you can't do that on social media and tell the world about it and get them to do anything for you. It's never going. It don't work that way.
No,
And it's been going on that way for years and years. So them guys are in trouble until new officials get put in, and then you better be nicer to them. You're going to have the same thing that you got now.
yeah,
But other areas, so like Missouri, they have really worked in the last few years. Do they do it as fast as I'd like to see them? Absolutely not. But
right,
they are getting stuff done. Um, and for whatever reason, they won't do anything to combat Illinois. I don't know why people are afraid Illinois are bigger. They're just a big bunch of crooks. Just go in there and take over that state, shit can the rest of them, and put some regulations in effect that benefits everybody. Not going to happen, but that's the way it should be. That's the way it would be if we was all back in the days this nation was founded.
right.
But everybody's running scared now. They don't want to offend somebody. Well, it doesn't really bother me. Uh,
But that's why I say that as long as we can instill the right message to people,
right.
sometimes all it takes is one, like that guy in South Carolina done.
That's right.
And, you know, he done a little, I mean, I ain't going to say it was underhanded, but
It
he
was
waited to the
smart on
last
his
second
part.
and toop, he added
He
that to it.
That's one of the smartest guys writing legislation I've ever seen. Is to
Yep.
put that through like he did. That was excellent done.
Because they was going to restrict, I think, only 2 lakes. And then right at the last minute, he put all waters.
That's right.
And so that helped out tremendously. You know, North Carolina
No,
put 2 over 32 or over 30. I think they raised it to 34 this year. Over 34 inches, you can only have two a day. But you know
one.
yourself, if nobody's there to watch,
That's fact. One of the things that I'll mention, James, is most states, their DNR, conservation agency, whatever you want to call it in your state, most of them are controlled by legislatures
yep,
through the state capital
right,
and voted on that way. With Missouri, it's a separate entity. So everything goes through the Missouri Department of Conservation. They do not have to go to the state house and get it approved unless it's something that's been brought up and you have to jump through hoops to get it there. I've been to the Capitol once, helping them getting regulations passed because it's being fought by one of the senators who didn't even know what kind of fish we had in the lakes,
There
And
you
I
go.
had a field day with her. I enjoyed that. I pretended that I actually meant something when I got to speak up there. And when she said, well, my constituents say they got to have those fish to eat, I said, your constituents need jobs then. And every McDonald's I went by on the way up here had a help wanted sign. Tell them to go get a job and they can buy food instead of mooching them off the rest of the people that's paying taxes to keep them waters going. And, it made my day to be able to light her up a little bit.
Oh
But,
yeah.
she had no clue. She said, we've got these kind of fish. No, you don't. There's none of them in the state of Missouri. She just was making stuff up and going by what people had told her. She didn't have a clue what she was talking about.
Oh yeah, and that's what most of them do. They don't have a
Well, and,
clue.
and the people from the Missouri Department of Conservation, they didn't want to get into it with her because she was a
Right.
legislature. Didn't bother me none because she wasn't
Nope.
in my district.
Yeah. She wasn't writing your paycheck, was she?
Nope. Nope. I had a good time with that.
And but really, if we would get to know our DNR people, get to know our game wardens that's out on the water, I'm gonna tell you, North Carolina and South Carolina got some tough freaking game wardens, buddy. They don't mind busting your tail and writing you them freaking tickets.
If you're
So
not doing anything wrong, you shouldn't mind being checked either.
there you go, because they're just looking out for your best interest. Uh, I'm sure some of them has bad days where they have to deal with a bunch of drunks or whatever on the
Oh,
water. But at the same time, it's if you sit and talk with them, if you run up to them and say, "Hey, look, I'd have sat and watched this guy getting ready to load his boat up. He's got baskets full of big old giant catfish, and I know it's against the law." You might count your tail. He's gonna hammer down and go see what's going on.
yeah. I'm not so sure that would happen in Missouri. Um, the other thing in Missouri that's different from a lot of people or a lot of other places is the State Highway Patrol is empowered to take care of the water patrol. So
Right.
that's all one entity. It has nothing to do with the Department of Conservation. So if you're out drunk operating a boat and the conservation department finds you doing that, they have to actually unless this has changed, they got to call the state highway patrol and water patrol to have them come out and get you. I don't think they didn't used to have authority to do anything. They probably could hold you until they get them there. But
Yeah.
you know, I'm I'm all for everybody having a good time, but I'm also all for having safety to keep these accidents from happening on these lakes and riverways.
Yeah, and I mean, and I'm gonna say something. I seen a little short video that the cat fisherman guy put up about the big boats. Well, guys and gals,
I
guess what?
seen that. Yeah,
And I'm probably going to PO some people, but they have the right to be on that water just as much as we do.
that's right. They
And
do.
as aggravating as it gets, and I've had my anchors jerked loose, and I've had my anchors jerked loose by the policeman boat, Gaston County Police boat down on Lake Wiley. That big old freaking boat is, they can't get it up on plane. It ain't got enough horsepower to get up on plane. So when he comes by, he'll rock your freaking world.
Yeah,
But those big boats. Now, don't get me wrong. Some of those big boats are on small waters, and I thought, time they get it hammered down, they got to take them back off of it because they at the other end already.
there you go.
But at the same time, this is America, guys and gals. They have a right,
They
just
do.
like you have a right.
That's right.
They really do. And
I just can't understand how you could have that much money in a boat, no rod holders out the back of it.
no doubt that
Hey,
one,
Jody.
that big old, what they call them, cigar boats or
Yeah.
whatever. That sucker was flying. I thought,
Oh,
well,
dude.
that's a daggum month paycheck for me to daggum put gas in it.
If I had one of them, I'd have drift masters all over it.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. But they out having fun too. They have a right to do it, and it
But they
doesn't get
could be a
aggravating.
little bit more courteous to guys in a kayak.
Well, yeah, well,
Wow.
but yourself though, Lyle. I would rather a boat be hammered down and come
Oh,
by
yeah.
me than one is just riding like this.
That's a
I
fact.
really would, man.
Yep.
It's
If you're going to slow down to go by somebody because you don't want to shake them and wake them, then crawl.
yeah,
if you're not, you might as well keep going and keep her up on plane because when you throttle it down, that's when the big wakes come right at them, man.
Son, that little old, you've heard me talk about my little old first catfish boat. It wasn't but, 14-foot long, little old bitty V hull with a 7.5 Mercury motor on the back, little tiller motor. And I had one of those big old boats like that come flying up on me on Lake Wiley. And he shut it down about, say, 60, 70 foot from my boat. He just shut it all the way down. And then as soon as it leveled out in the water, he hammered right back. And I was fighting to get that little boat turned into the wake. And son, I was taking on water, and I tied a rope around my boat motor and then tied one around a big old 64-ounce Sundrop bottle. I thought, I can make it to the bank. I want to know where I can come back and get my stuff from when it goes down, son.
I've
I
had
filled that boat full of holes that day.
I've had big boats, little boats, everything in between, and um, I've been on the Mississippi River in a 14-foot Lake John that I had no business out there with a 6-year-old kid and my brother, and we stayed right next to the bank because we wanted to go up Salt River and fish, which we did, and we went back, and we got back, and I told Mark, I said, I ain't never going to do that again. That little 3.5 or whatever foot wide boat that is not with 7.5 horse motor, on a Mississippi River going up the river, and that ain't never going to happen again ever.
And I try to stay close. I always, because I know there's big boats out there and a lot of wake, and I try to always run the bank. But right where I was at, the river channel also run real close to the bank. So I was in about 38 foot of water, and I thought, oh,
Yeah.
this ain't going to be pretty.
Just remember, James, and I've told you this before, we fish Lake of the Ozarks a lot. Lake of the Ozarks in Missouri, where I live, is the #1 tourist lake in the entire United States. So, how many ever big boats you've got, multiply that times 30 or 40, maybe 100, and that's what we have every day that it's warm.
Really?
Because they get out there, and my little 18-foot boat isn't even a dinghy on most of their boats. It's just not.
And Wiley's got like that. It's got because Charlotte's right beside on one side of the lake, and they've got multi-billion-dollar houses up and down both sides of that lake. It has just got so crowded, and the problem is, it usually ain't the parents. It's usually the kids getting on the family big boat out there that causes a lot of problems. You got jet skiers and stuff like that, so.
I'm surprised those wakes don't really affect them guys, but it doesn't.
I'm really surprised. I seen where they had is either South Carolina or North Carolina just passed a law that about those wake boats that they really come down hard on those wake boats.
Yeah,
I see what he said.
yeah, he's funny man. He's just mad because he's stuck in New Jersey.
Oh Lord. They changed the laws in South Carolina. The wake boats had to yield 200 foot to an anchored boat and dock. So
Very
that
good.
means they ain't got a whole lot of places that they can run those wake boats. 200 foot's a long ways.
That's a long way.
So yeah, but when these rich millionaires and stuff have to start hauling more gravel in around the banks and stuff because it's getting eroded out, that's where your changes come in because they got the money to,
and they know the people to grease their palms.
There you go. When they
Creole, I know you ain't got no pleasure boaters much down there where you're at, buddy.
Oh, probably not.
Current's too strong down there. They don't get out and play in that water down there. He's got gators and sharks. Ain't nobody gonna play in that water down there.
Ain't nobody want to daggum. Well, I started to say something. I gotta leave that one alone. I had to tell that when we ain't online. Oh, yeah. But yeah, I mean, just a short time that I've been on YouTube, I've seen some good changes come. in the catfishing world. A lot of great people, got to meet a lot of great people. A lot of people come in and supports my channel, supports the floats, and supports Catfish Weekly and all the other live shows. All I can say is let's do our part to keep it that way,
That's
so
right.
that our grandbabies and our great grandbabies will still have the opportunity to do the same thing. So I want to
If ever,
change it up a little bit. I want to
okay.
ask you, I've been noticing around North Carolina, South Carolina, and and I'm gonna mention Wiley. The fathead population has started booming. And I don't know if it's because the waters are perfect for it or if it's because YouTube is making it more seen. But it seems like when I first got into it, you was happy to catch a flathead. Now it's not unusual to go to Wiley and catch decent flathead. It's, I think a lot of the lakes around here, because we do have big populations of bluegill, crappie, crappie, or however you all want to say it, the white perch, and other species that are food to them. I mean, I just wonder if it's actually the flatheads are actually finally took hold, and right now there's no slowing them down.
Well, I hope that's the case. One of the problems that I have with a bunch of the lakes and waterways out east, like the Potomac and the James River and them places, is they put blues and flatheads in them lakes. They didn't used to have them. Now they're calling them invasive. You cannot call them invasive if you're the one that put them in there. You're
Right,
stocking them. They are stocked fish.
right,
Um, you knew how flatheads ate when you put them in there because anybody that stocks anything at all does enough research to know what they want in them waters. And them biologists out there, they knew what they was going to eat and how much they was going to eat. So you got what you got. Quit fighting it, deal with it, man up, and grow a pair.
right.
Flatheads are the greatest catfish of all times. They're the king of cats. If
Yep,
you've got them, you should feel privileged they're in your waterways because they will make you a better fisherman going after them. And I think it's great that your population is increasing. I hope that happens in the lakes around here. I haven't noticed it, but then again, I don't normally fish for flatheads. My main time that I fished for flatheads was when we went to the Mississippi or the Missouri River, and we wouldn't necessarily target them, but I would try to set up where I could have one or two rods with live bait on them heading to an area where I thought they'd be, and the rest of them would be out in a different area after blue cats. But you know, I just think that if you got flatheads, you should feel privileged that they're in there and doing well because them Yin Lake's got enough food for them flatheads. They're
Oh
not going to
man.
eat them. If you think that flatheads are eating too many blue crabs, then stop the guys from netting them commercially. That's where your crabs, blue crabs are going. It ain't them flatheads. Holy crap, guys! Use your brain for some size. Hold your ears apart.
Mr. Martin's wanting to join us.
Well, let's have him,
What's up, David?
What's
David.
up, guys? I hope you can see me. I'm kind of sitting in an awkward position out here in the garage.
And David's another one that can contest to that. All about the seems like the flatheads are really turning on in a lot of the North Carolina lakes and South
I'm
Carolina lakes.
glad for you.
Yeah, they're getting full of them.
Yeah,
That's
But
good.
the reason I had you bring me on here is, last time when we were talking about all that fishing and stuff, and we were kind of stirring up the pot a little bit.
Really?
You guys know I don't mean no harm. I did do a little bit of research though, because James said, go out and see what you can find out. And one thing I started watching a lot of videos on YouTube, and what I started discovering was there's quite a few people out there that, for instance, like one I watched a guy bluegill fishing the other day, and then right when he finished at the end, he took like maybe 5 minutes of the video's time, and right there at the end, while he had everybody already interested in what was going on, he held up one of the bluegills and he explained, the guys, you need to put these big ones back. They're important to the lake, and what I thought about is just making an outright conservation video. I don't think people are going to watch it when they see it. But if you got them in one of your videos, which is really good, and they're already in there interested, and you just put a little 5-minute, 3 or 4 minute blurb in there and just explain that, look, it takes a long time for this fish to get this big, do this and this, for whatever kind of fish it is. Catfish, I've taken a break from catfishing, but like the big bluegill or anything, just explain to them that, this is great. We've taught you a lot of stuff in the video. We gave you a lot of stuff to help you learn, but take this and understand that this resource is not unlimited. And just kind of explain about that fish and catch them while they're in there trapped.
Right.
Not necessarily trapped, but they're already interested in what you're talking about.
Right.
I agree with that 100%. And the difference in what we do is nobody likes to catch bluegill better than me. I mean, I'd love to catch bluegill.
Oh, they're fun.
James Dockery has told me, and he is up to speed on all fish in our area, and that their life expectancy is 6 years, something like that.
Yeah, 6 to 8 years.
Yeah, it's not real long, but
No.
it takes 20 years to grow a catfish.
Exactly.
30 in some instances. So you've got to put them big breeders back, because according to Missouri Department of Conservation studies, even a 25-year-old fish is putting out 400,000 or 500,000 eggs every year,
Oh, yeah.
and they raise a percentage of them, but they only raise a percentage of the ones that only put out 5,000 too. So I forgot what the percentages are. So you got to put them big ones back to continue on that gene pool.
That's what's interesting. Yeah. And what I noticed was just looking at a lot of different videos, a lot of guys will try to get attention to their video, and they'll show a cooler of fish, and they put all the big fish on top of the cooler, the one, and to get everybody to go look at it. But what they don't do in some of these videos, some do and some don't, explain that they're basically sending out a bad message when they throw all the big fish on the top.
Yeah.
But if they would explain to people, about how to, keep from harming the resource, it would be a good thing while you got them in the video.
That's right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It just takes a minute.
Yeah. I was a little bit harsh, to say that YouTube is just completely destroying fish, and they haven't. But I do see a lot of people not really thinking about, look, I've got 1,000 people that watch this video, or I've got 300,000 that watch this video. I can really educate a lot of people really fast on something good.
That's right.
But I can also explain to them that you can't eat all of them, or, you shouldn't drop them on their head or whatever. Just something that makes people understand that, that's not unlimited.
No.
It's not an unlimited resource.
It's not an unlimited resource. It's sure not.
No. I mean, you can't stop knuckleheads from being knuckleheads. I mean, some people are just going to be stupid.
The other thing is our growth as a human resource of human beings throughout the United States is growing in magnitudes, especially in the United States, where we got millions of illegals coming in every year. They got to eat something.
Yeah, well, that was 8 million people. For an example, like I used to go trout fishing up in the mountains on opening day up in Brown Mountain. You could go up there, there might be 10 people up there, when you'd be like, oh, he's in my spot. But I went up there a few years ago. There was 10,000 of them up there from Mexico, and every one of them was carrying a grill, and they cooked every fish they caught it, and there wasn't a rock to be stood on.
Yeah.
So, I guess the masses of people is a problem. I mean, can't even drive anymore for the masses of people. There's a lot of people. But but if you guys that reach a lot of people with your videos, if everybody would just, not in every video, I mean, nobody wants to see that every time, but occasionally just explain to people, hey, I've given you a lot of good stuff here to help you catch fish. I've showed you things that it's taken me years to do, but please take a moment to do this with the fish. Well, like a bluegill, put it back, explain why, or a big giant flathead, explain why.
That's right.
Don't do like that one guy that cut up 700 pounds of them. That had me so frustrated, I was about ready to paint off the wall.
Oh, I hear you. Dennis with Northeast Missouri Angler says you wouldn't believe the flack he gets for putting fish back. And I know that to be true because I've caught some of it over the years, not as much anymore. But yeah, people look at you like There's something wrong with it. Well, in my mind, and this is just me, and I don't care if anybody likes it too much or not, we don't keep big fish. The better eating fish are the small ones to start with. They're a lot easier to clean. Them big ones, like
Absolutely.
rolling around a hog in a butcher shop. I mean, they're hard to deal with.
And a lot of the
It's
bigger they
deep cooked.
are, the more they're out to taste like poop too.
That's exactly right. But if it's deep hooked, I'm either going to clean it and dress it myself, or find somebody else that wants it. Because if they're deep hooked, they're probably not going to die. If you can't stop the bleeding, they are going to die.
Right.
And you need to harvest that fish.
Yeah, even out bluegill fish, I switched to a bigger hook, even though I don't catch as many fish. I don't have them swallowed, like I used I did.
Right. Yeah.
And then I learned that
will suck it down in a heartbeat, son.
Yeah,
They'll suck
but
that right down.
and then I learned a way to keep those big bluegills, like some of the ones I've been posting on my page, from sucking down the hook. I'll cast it in past the area that I'm targeting, and I'll reel it kind of slow and keep the whatever bait I'm using from setting, and I keep it moving. Now when I feel them grab it, I just tighten up on the line.
Yeah,
that stopped about 99% of. But little things like that,
them right there, them will keep them from sucking them in too deep.
I guarantee you got a mouthful there.
Yeah.
But there's little things like that, just teaching people, because if somebody sees a video with a cooler full of fish, and the first thing they thought is, man, I'm gonna eat all them big fish. But if somebody would take the time to explain to them that what they could be doing to the lake, that would be real important. I mean, that right there would counteract the number of people that are being reached on YouTube.
I think that's a great idea, and I think that we all, as a whole, people that make videos and stuff, I think we all should try to do something like that. And if you don't think you need to do it every video, that's okay. Do it every third or fourth or fifth one.
Yeah, you don't want to frustrate people.
Yeah, you don't want to make them mad, and that happens so easily these days.
You had a guy on your show one time. He was like, he caught every fish there ever was. He was in like the Fishing Hall of Fame, whatever. I can't remember his name, Lyle.
Mark Davis.
He was like I said, the guy's been in magazines and everything. He's got giant fish all over his wall. I watched him do a video about bluegill fishing, and he come right out and he said at the end, he said, "Don't eat all the big bluegills, period." And he explained how how genetically important they are,
Mm-hmm.
And that sunk in when I saw that. But he didn't beat you to death with it. He just brought it to the end of the video.
Babe Winkleman was always good about that.
That was who it was.
That's who it was.
That was him, Winkleman. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he had an excellent video on bluegill fishing, but at the end, he took the time and he was pretty stern about it. If you eat all of them, this is what you're going to do. Man, them things look good.
Them for
the Kings Mountain.
As soon as I get an address,
6510.
But I didn't want to hijack your show, James. I just wanted to clarify.
Fine.
Well,
he was struggling anyhow. He couldn't find somebody, so he called me because he knew I wasn't doing anything.
Well, like I said, when I got on that show, when I got on that show that day, I had watched that catfish video the day before that guy slaughtered them 700 pounds of catfish.
Oh yeah.
And I was out for blood, man.
Well, and
that happens.
At the same time, that's why I wanted to bring you on, because your nerves was on the edge. I knew Lyle and Dieter could help steer that a little bit, and myself, so we could actually get the answers that I felt that people needed to hear.
Yeah,
we
because
needed to find the raw of it at the same time, so you could pass along those feelings of just not hatred, but just disgust. And that's the only way you can feel it, is get them raw emotions in there so other anglers can see the disgust. And they went and checked out what was going on. And I'm sure that this guy got bombarded with a lot of negative stuff, not maybe from the people on here, but the more people see that, they're going to think, you can have a big catfish cookout, but then what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And here's another point, and Dennis with Northeast Missouri Angler put this up there about the toxins in the water. Now, the toxins that's in the waters do not affect the small fish like they do the big fish.
Nope.
Those fish that's been in there 15, 20 years, they've absorbed
Oh, yeah.
all that for all that length of time. Them small ones, 3 or 4 years, you got about better chance not getting anything off of those, and you
Right.
still got a fillet that's can't get it in there. You know, a big fillet off of a 5 or 6 pound fish. And in
Yeah,
Missouri, they've made the length for underfish. You could keep 10 unders.
Right.
That's
That's
a
very
lot
true.
of that's a lot of fillets.
Yeah, and I mean, people don't realize mercury, the PCPs, and all of that are actually made or heavy metals.
That's right.
Our bodies do not get rid of heavy metals.
Again,
No,
that's
Out
what
here,
you
it
stuff
doesn't
into
eat
the
you.
waterway.
It's in there.
and I know out here on the East Coast, we don't have what they call selenium in the water. Out around California and stuff, they have selenium. So the mercury and stuff out there that you might ingest from fish or whatever, your body is able to get rid of. That selenium helps you get rid of it. We don't
Right.
have it in our waters out here. So any heavy metals that you ingest through fish or whatever, your body is not able to get rid of it. And it might not affect you for your whole lifetime. But then again,
That's
if
true.
you keep eating those big fish and you keep getting it in there, eventually you will hit what they call a toxicity level.
Right.
And once you hit that level, your liver starts failing, your kidneys start failing, your brain starts shrinking. It's crazy what heavy metals
Well, I don't
do
need none of
to the
that.
body.
My brain done shrunk as far as it can stand to go.
Can't drink no more. Well, well, last year they had equivalent to 17 tanker loads of crap got dumped in Lake Wiley where they had that water pipe under the water leaking. I mean, that's a lot of poop.
How'd they
And it
find
was-
out that it was leaking? They see it floating or something?
I don't know, but it was
They traced it
upriver.
down. What it is they've got monitors on different pump stations, and there was a pump station right over David off of Lower Bethesda Road, and
Yeah.
it got hit by lightning, and it shut the pump. It burnt the whole pump system up.
Yeah, it was
Well,
leaking.
that
with the
whole
water.
building is actually 3 stories. There's a story and a half underground, and it's actually a story and a half above ground. It filled that building slam full, blowed the windows out, and of course they built everything right beside creeks. So there,
Yeah,
they
and-
pumped for about a day and a half before it got noticed.
And you can say what you want to say. When it upriver like it was, poop flows downhill.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah, buddy.
downstream. And I'm telling you, don't tell me them catfish didn't eat that. And I'm not eating them because I'm not taking no chances of me eating one of them fish that ate 17,000 tanker loads of crap.
Yeah.
Think about it now for a minute.
I can relate. Yeah, it'd be hard for me to do that.
Yeah.
No, I'm
and
not doing it.
it'd take a long time for it to digest all that.
And if you
Right.
and you know if you we don't have a lot of rain, Lake Wiley don't move a lot of water, so it don't get flooded.
It's going to settle in the bottom. Right?
Yeah,
I
it
just-
just-
Well, if they're telling you there's stuff in the water, they're not telling you how much stuff is in the water. They lie.
You're never going to get the correct answer. You're right.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, my cousin many years ago when we was growing up, fished. You remember, David? They used to call it the bean hole.
Yeah.
We'd go swimming. There was an old bridge there. Everybody used to dive off the bridge and junk like that. Well, Arnie started getting some sores on him. Well, he went to the doctor, and that doctor said, "You've been swimming in Lake Wiley, hadn't you?"
Oh, yeah. Well,
Just by looking at him,
I know. Well, like up on
that
Lake
right there
James.
tells me a whole lot.
Yeah. Well, like up on Lake James, which is the top of the chain for all this Catawba River chain. They had a warning up there just a month ago from all this rain where it's washing off all that runoff into the lake that they didn't want you swimming in there. They said you could get skin infections, E. coli, and all kinds of stuff. And that lake, that's the very top chain, 10 lakes up the chain. And it's a mountain lake.
Yeah, but it
Wow.
goes through a lot of rocks on the way down, David. It got purified before it got down here.
Okay. I'll tell
I don't know.
y'all eat all y'all want. I ain't eating them.
Yeah.
Dennis, Northeast Missouri Angler, also posted up here Mark Twain Lake is flooded farmland. Just think of all the chemical that was sprayed on that before Mark Twain was made. And I know when it was made because it was made when we went when I was graduating high school, all the kids I went to school with went over and got jobs as they finished that up in the next 2 or 3 years after that. But that's all farm ground and roadways and houses, and they didn't really tear much of anything down, trees or anything. They just flooded it all.
Yeah, that's why Santee Cooper was. But you know, we got that perfect lake here right above me is Moss Lake.
Yeah.
Beautiful lake, but it was all farmlands. And now they have such an algae bloom. And I told you, Lyle, and I know I told David, is that at nighttime you can watch your graph and that algae bloom will come to the surface and it will black out your screen on your depth finder.
Wow.
Where do those fish go? They have to go to the shallows to get away from it.
They got to, yeah.
Because I was, the first time I seen it, actually I was live, had a show one night live out there on Moss Lake fishing, and I had 3 live bluegill out. And when I reeled them back in, their gills was all flared out and their eyes was bulged out. That's a lack of oxygen.
Mm-hmm.
And,
but I guess that's with any food though. We don't know what we're eating no more.
Yeah, but I mean, what I'm saying is that those chemicals don't just affect us.
Oh no, they affect everything.
That whole ecosystem.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah. Well, all the water sprinklers running on the lake, you know, they got fertilizer in their yard. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Now, do you guys have irrigation farming out there? The big irrigation stands that they move through the field?
Oh yeah, they do. They do. There's some up here near the rivers in Hickory.
Yeah. Well, they get their water out of the ponds that they dig on their farm ground. Yep. Now, where do you think the runoff of that comes from? Right out of them fields where all that crap's been sprayed onto them.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. There's no telling what we're eating.
Oh, there is not.
No.
I'm a farm pond. If I eat fish, it's coming out of farm pond. And I know, like right here behind the house, I can go down there and catch me fish out of here. That old pond ain't doing too good, and I need to talk to somebody about what we can do to actually bring it back to shape. But it runs through miles and miles of nothing but woods and stuff like that. Straight
That'd be a good one to catch fish.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
But I heard you guys before I got on here talking to like DNR and different. I tried that one time. Somebody must have said something while I was laughing. But I tried that one time, and I got nowhere with them. I mean, I made calls to commissioners. I talked to the guy in Dallas, which is the commissioner for wildlife. And they had no interest whatsoever in helping a catfish or a bluegill. All they were interested in was game fish.
I have had really good success with the Department of Conservation, but it works both ways. When they needed help getting regulations passed, they called me, and Cindy and I would drive down to their meetings and shake hands with people that I have a disdain disgust for because they don't care nothing about how many fish they can take out of the water. But we smiled, shook their hands, and tried to convince them anyway. And the people that were on the borderline, we made progress with a lot of them. And when I needed something, I would call them, and it worked out both ways.
Yeah.
But I'll never forget, we was trying to get them regulations passed on the Mississippi, and I've nearly give up on it because they will not combat Illinois. They just won't. They're afraid of them for whatever reason, and I think they ought to declare a state-to-state war and go take over the state of Illinois. But that's another story for another day. But I went up there and I told them guys, I said, I don't know what the deal is and why you won't do this, but you want the regulations passed on all these lakes, and I have busted my butt, run all over the world, spent all kinds of money helping you get them, and all I want is you to at least make the attempt to put the same regulations on the Mississippi and the Missouri River where they're needed the most, and you won't do it.
Yeah.
And that's just, they won't even make an attempt, and even though they've done 5-year studies, they won't release the numbers because they know I'm right about it, and they won't release the numbers, and they won't do anything about it. And I don't care what they say. They're afraid of Illinois, and I say just march the Army National Guard over, take over Illinois, and kick all this to the curb. Screw them.
One thing we can do, everybody that makes a video can put their little message in there and make it known that way. Because there'll be a lot more, you'll reach more people anyway with you guys' videos explaining just a little blurb of that than they'll ever do for anybody, probably.
Yeah.
You guys got the power to talk to millions.
And that's what it takes. It really does. And you have to be tasteful about it. And I've not been real tasteful tonight. I try to do better most of the time, but I'm kind of like you was on the last one, David.
Well, like I said, I was in a bad mood that day. I should have never came on there probably.
Well, that's just like the deal with that Mississippi and Missouri River. There's no reason they can't put them rules in. They just will not
I
combat
don't.
Illinois.
Well, I ain't bad mouthing the game wards or anything, but I never see them in the water anymore. Ever since COVID, I've not seen one.
We see them a lot. We've been stopped a lot over the years, and I don't have an issue with that. I thank them guys because I said, hey, you guys don't have to do that. See, many of you, and one guy kept telling me, I said, man, you stopped me 3 times this week. He said, yeah, you're the only guy out here. I just need somebody to talk to.
You go down.
North Carolina game wardens, South Carolina game wardens used to be rough.
Oh, yeah, they did.
They used to be rough. They wanted you to screw up.
Yeah, the guy that done me that way, he used to be rougher than a cob, but he got a little better. He got closer to retirement age.
You go down there on Wiley right now at nighttime and carry off everything late. Nobody'd see you.
Well,
nobody down there. Not at night.
Another reason why I don't do much night fishing anymore, and it's been so hot, we've been talking about it, be putting the lights back on the boat. But I don't want to go back to my boat when I get done fishing and have to fight off a bunch of these kids or somebody break the glass out of my truck or me have to pull a gun out and shoot one of them.
That's one of the reasons.
I know you've already been through that little blue
truck. They put
truck.
a dead deer in the back of my truck, shot it in the head, threw it in the back of my truck. I come in and laid in the back of the truck dead. I'm like, I told my buddy, I said, there's a dead deer in my truck. He was down at my boat. He said, he said, you on crack or something? I said, no, there's a deer in the back of my truck dead.
That's another thing people don't realize. Your water treatment plants, they do the best they can of removing anything harmful out of it, and they release the water back into the creeks or whatever, and they make it back to our lakes and our rivers. But there's things that they cannot remove out of that waste treatment.
That's right.
A lot of medicines are in the water.
A lot of medicines, and they already testing fish and showing human hormones, testosterone, estrogen, and
that's
human
what I don't need, no estrogen,
and all the kind of medicines, Prozacs and antidepressants.
Where do you think people get rid of that stuff? They flush it down their toilet.
Well, and our body, it gets rid of that waste.
I sweat it out, buddy.
And they can't remove it. So that's another reason why you don't want to eat those big old fish either, because they've been sucking it in for years.
No,
they just pass it through their gills and stuff. But
yeah, that's exactly right.
But you don't, like I said, you don't know what's in any of our food anymore. All our food's bad. You're going through a drive-through, there ain't no telling what's on them hamburgers.
But I don't eat fast food.
I went through the drive-through one night, and me and Jeff was out coming back from fishing. We went through Wendy's, and they took a long time to get our food. And I got kind of cocky with him at the drive-thru. He said, I'm not eating that food. I said, why? So I'm not eating. He said, you might as well leave. I said, why? He said, you done got pissed them off today, and they're wiping our buns on their butt.
Could happen.
He wasn't going to eat it either. We just left.
Yeah.
You mess with somebody at the drive-thru, he's not eating it.
No.
Yeah.
He said they plotting, they rubbing their bun up my bun all over there. You know what? Right now.
Yeah.
So your food's probably rotten no matter what you do.
Yeah. Guys, I had a blast tonight. Thank you for coming in. I just I enjoyed it, and I enjoy shows like this because we bring out so much different things. And look at Chat. Chat was involved in everything we was talking about, telling about their lakes and what's going on in their area. That's what I want. I want Chat to be active. I want them to be active in what we're discussing. And if we're discussing stuff that might hurt your feelings or whatever, let us know. Maybe we're not thinking exactly what you're going through in your area.
Honestly, though,
we can change things up.
Honestly, sometimes you just got to piss people off to get them thinking about stuff,
or get them motivated enough to help do something.
Yeah, you just got to make. They ain't gonna hear it unless you do something. Either one torques them off, catches their attention, makes them walk off pissed off, and then they think about it. Well, maybe he's right. Maybe I should do something, or maybe blah, blah, or something,
on the rare occasion that I am wrong, I will take it if somebody brings that up and proves that I am wrong.
Yeah, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
Exactly right. I'm not perfect, and I know good and well. I try not to bring up any wrong information to y'all. And if I do, please bring it to my attention. It was not intentional. But, please think about what we're saying.
Michael Perillo's 100% correct.
You got that right, Mike. Oh, Lord. Guys and gals, thank y'all for coming joining me on a Wednesday night. I appreciate each and every one of you. I really do. I know Lyle and David does. We have a blast watching these other shows and conversing back and forth with everybody. But until next Wednesday night, there's a lot more other shows coming on the rest of the week. So go join them. Have fun. We'll see y'all next Wednesday night, and God bless.